The night was quiet in the small Montana town. Most lights were off in the houses spread across the valley. Only the moon watched over the Anderson home, a simple wooden cabin that sat alone at the edge of thick pine forest. Inside, 12-year-old, Jack Anderson sat on his bed reading a book about space. His mother had gone to town for supplies, something she did once a month. Jack didn't mind being alone, he was used to it. "Be back in 2 hours," his mother Liz had said, giving him a quick kiss on the forehead. "Lock the doors and windows. Don't answer for anyone." Jack had nodded. He knew the rules. His mother was always careful, always watchful. Sometimes it felt like she was waiting for something bad to happen. What Jack didn't know was that his mother had good reason to be careful. Elizabeth Liz Anderson wasn't just an ordinary single mom who liked privacy. Before moving to Montana, before Jack was born, she had another name. In dark corners of the world, in places where violence lived like a hungry animal, people called her Baba Yaga. They whispered the name with fear. She was the woman you sent when all hope was lost. The woman who could find anyone, anywhere. The woman who never, ever failed. But Liz had put that life behind her. Or so she thought. 50,000 miles above Earth, a ship moved silently through the darkness. It was not from Earth. The metal of its hull was not made by human hands. Inside, tall figures with hard shells covering their bodies moved with purpose. They were Zixorians, members of a vast empire that ruled across the stars. To them, Earth was just another primitive world, filled with specimens to collect. Target. "Is alone now," said Commander Vrex, looking at a screen showing Jack's cabin. "Begin extraction." 3 Zixorian hunters prepared for the mission. They were twice as tall as a human man with 4 arms and skin like polished black stone. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of the preparation chamber. "Remember," said Vrex, "this is a clean extraction. No evidence. The primitives must not know we were here." The hunters nodded. They had done this many times before, on many worlds. Humans were not special. They were just another species to be taken and used by the Empire. A small craft left the main ship, dropping toward Earth like a silent stone. It landed half a mile from Jack's cabin, hidden by trees. The 3 hunters stepped out, their bodies changing color to match the night around them. Jack had finished his book and was getting ready for bed when he heard a sound from outside. It was like nothing he had ever heard before, a soft hum that made his teeth feel strange. He went to the window and looked out but saw only darkness. Then he heard another sound, a scratch at the back door. "Mom?" he called, but even as he said it, he knew it wasn't his mother. She always came through the front door, and she had a key. Jack reached for the phone to call the emergency number his mother had given him, but before he could dial, the back door burst open. Something large and dark moved into the kitchen. Jack ran. He made it to his bedroom and slammed the door shut, pushing his desk against it. His heart was beating so fast it hurt. Through the wood of the door, he heard heavy footsteps. There were whispers in a language he didn't understand. The door shuddered as something hit it hard. Once. Twice. On the third hit, the wood cracked. Jack backed up against the wall. The desk slid across the floor as the door opened. One of the hunters stepped into the room. In the darkness, Jack could see its glowing eyes and the outline of its massive body. It reached for him with arms that seemed too long, too strong. "Mom," Jack screamed, but he knew she was too far away to hear him. The hunter made a sound, something like laughter but cold and empty. It sprayed something into Jack's face, a mist that smelled like metal and dirt. Jack tried to hold his breath, but it was too late. His legs felt weak. The room started to spin. As Jack fell, his hand knocked a shelf on the wall. A small wooden box that his mother kept, the one she told him never to open, fell to the floor. It broke open, spilling its contents. A strange knife, some papers with strange writing, and a photo of his mother standing with a group of serious-looking people in military clothes. The hunter didn't notice. It picked up Jack's limp body and carried him out of the room. The other hunters were waiting. One of them spoke into a small device on its wrist, and a beam of pale blue light appeared outside the cabin. "Extraction complete," said the hunter, holding Jack. "Return to ship." But as they moved toward the light, one of the hunters stumbled on a root hidden in the dark. A small device fell from its belt, landing silently in the grass near the cabin. None of them noticed. They were already thinking about their return to the Empire, about the praise they would receive for capturing another fine specimen. They carried Jack into the light and vanished. The blue beam disappeared. The night was quiet again, as if nothing had happened. 2 hours later, Liz Anderson drove her old truck up the dirt road to the cabin. She was tired from the long drive to town, but happy to be home. She had bought Jack's favorite cookies as a surprise. As soon as she turned off the engine, she knew something was wrong. The back door was open, swinging slightly in the night breeze. Liz reached under her seat and pulled out a gun that no one in town knew she had. She moved toward the cabin like a ghost, making no sound. Inside, she checked every room with quick, practiced movements. When she reached Jack's room, she saw the broken door, the fallen shelf, the open box she had hidden away. "Jack," she called, knowing already that she would get no answer. Liz knelt on the floor, her hand touching the place where her son had been just hours ago. Her fingers touched something in the carpet, something small and hard that didn't belong there. She picked it up. It was not made by human hands. The small device was like nothing on Earth, a piece of technology from somewhere beyond the stars. Liz stared at it, and something cold and terrible woke up inside her. They had taken her son. They, whoever they were, had come from the stars and stolen Jack. Liz stood up slowly. Her eyes were dry, her hands steady. She walked to her bedroom and opened a safe hidden under the floorboards. Inside was a phone she had hoped never to use again. She dialed a number from memory. "It's me," she said when someone answered. "I need everything you have on unidentified objects in Montana airspace tonight. Yes, that kind of unidentified. And I need Frank Collins. Tell him Baba Yaga is calling in all her favors." Hung up and looked at the alien device again. Whoever had taken her son had made a terrible mistake. They had taken him from Baba Yaga, and she was going to get him back, no matter how far she had to go. No matter how many of them she had to kill. The hunt had begun. The black car arrived at Liz's cabin just before dawn. Frank Collins stepped out, looking older than when Liz had last seen him 5 years ago. His hair was now completely gray, and new lines marked his face, but his eyes were the same, sharp and focused. Liz was waiting on the porch, a small bag at her feet. She had not slept. The alien device lay on the table beside her, caught in the first light of morning. "Baba Yaga," Frank said, the old code name sounding strange after so many years. "Never thought I'd hear from you again. I never thought they'd take my son," Liz replied, her voice flat and cold. Frank nodded. He understood. In the world they had both lived in, there were lines you didn't cross. Taking someone's child was at the top of that list. "Show me," he said. Liz handed him the alien device. Frank studied it, turning it over in his hands. "This isn't the first," he said after a moment. "We've found 3 others like it in the past decade, always after someone went missing." Liz's eyes narrowed. "You knew they were taking people?" "We suspected, but we had no proof. No way to track them. Until now." Frank gestured to the car. "Come with me. There are people you need to meet." The ride was long and silent. They drove for hours, leaving the small town far behind. Eventually, they turned onto a hidden road that led to what looked like an abandoned airfield. But as they approached, part of the ground slid open, revealing a ramp that led down into darkness. "Welcome to Project Stargazer," Frank said as they drove down the ramp. "The government's best-kept secret." Below the surface was a massive complex. Men and women in lab coats moved between strange machines. On large screens, stars and planets were displayed with paths marked between them. "You've been busy," Liz said. "So have they," Frank replied. "The visitors, I mean. We've been tracking them for years. They come and go, taking what they want. We've never been able to stop them." Frank led Liz to a room where a small group of people waited around a table. He introduced them one by one. Dr. Susan Webb, the lead scientist, General Peter Harris, the military commander, and Agent Mia Flores from an agency Liz had never heard of. "This is Elizabeth Anderson," Frank told them. "Former Special Operations, code name Baba Yaga." Dr. Webb's eyes widened slightly. Even here, in this secret place, they had heard the stories. "They took her son last night," Frank continued. "And they left this." He placed the alien device on the table. Dr. Webb picked it up carefully. "This is a communicator," she said after examining it. "Part of it anyway. It's broken, but this could be exactly what we've been waiting for." She hurried to a computer and connected the device to it. Strange symbols appeared on the screen. "It's still transmitting," Webb said, excitement in her voice. "Still trying to reach its mothership. We can track the signal." Liz stepped forward. "How long until you find them?" "Hours, maybe days," Webb said. "But finding them is only the first problem. They'll be heading back to their home system. We have no way to follow them that far." "We've been working on something," General Harris said. "A ship, based on their technology. A prototype. Does it work?" Liz asked. Harris looked uncomfortable. "In theory. We've never tested it with a pilot. You have one now," Liz said. The next few hours passed in a blur. Liz was shown the ship. A small, strange-looking craft hidden in the largest hangar of the complex. It was barely big enough for one person. Its controls a mix of human and alien technology. "It's designed to match their speed," Webb explained as they walked around it. "To follow their jump signatures through what we think is some kind of wormhole technology." "How dangerous is it?" Liz asked. Webb didn't answer immediately. "We don't know," she finally admitted. "The pilot would be the first human to travel that way." "I don't care," Liz said. "Just show me how to fly it." While Liz learned the ship's controls, Webb and her team worked on the alien device. By evening, they had their answer. "We found them," Webb announced, pointing to a screen where a small dot moved slowly away from Earth. "They're still in our solar system, but accelerating. In 12 hours, they'll reach the jump point beyond Mars." Liz stood up from the simulator where she had been training. "Then I leave in 6. No one argued with her. They knew that look. It was the look of someone who would walk through fire to reach their goal. "There's one more thing," Frank said, leading Liz to a small room off the main hangar. Inside was a collection of weapons. Some human, some clearly not. "We've recovered these over the years," he explained. "Some work, some don't. Take what you need." Liz ignored the strange alien weapons. Instead, she selected a combat knife, a pistol that fit her hand like it was made for her, and a few other small items that could be hidden easily. "You're not taking any of the energy weapons?" Frank asked, surprised. "Exotic weapons fail," Liz said simply. "These won't." As the launch time approached, Liz changed into a black flight suit designed for the mission. Dr. Webb gave her final instructions on how to operate the ship. General Harris wished her luck in the stiff way of military men who aren't good with words. "The ship has been named," Frank told her as they walked to the launch pad. "The engineers call it the Witch's Hut." Liz almost smiled at that. "Almost. What will you do when you find them?" Frank asked quietly so the others couldn't hear. Liz checked her knife one last time before sliding it into its sheath. "What I've always done," she said. "I'll teach them why they should have been afraid." The ship was ready. Liz climbed inside, the small space closing around her like a coffin. But she wasn't afraid. Fear was for those who had options. Liz only had a mission. The hangar doors above opened, revealing the night sky. The ship hummed to life around her, controls glowing with soft blue light. "Launch in 10 seconds, came Webb's voice over the radio. "Good luck, Mrs. Anderson." "I don't need luck," Liz replied. "I need them to stand still long enough to die." The ship rose smoothly, accelerating faster than anything human-built could manage. The stars stretched around her as the earth fell away below, Somewhere out there, across the cold emptiness of space, was her son. And nothing, not alien technology, not the vacuum of space, not the laws of physics themselves, would stop Baba Yaga from finding him. The hunt had moved to the stars. Space was endless and cold. Liz had never seen such emptiness before. On Earth, even in the most remote places, there was always something. A bird, a tree, the wind. Here there was nothing but stars and blackness. The ship, the witch's hut, moved faster than anything humans had built before. Dr. Webb's voice occasionally came through the radio, but it grew more distant and broken as the ship raced away from Earth. "Your catch them," Webb's voice crackled. "The jump. 6 hours." Liz checked the small screen that showed her target. The alien ship was a red dot moving away from Earth. Her ship was a blue dot following. The distance between them was getting smaller. "I'll be there," Liz replied, though she wasn't sure if Webb could hear her anymore. As she flew, Liz thought about Jack, his first steps, his laugh, the way he looked at the world with such wonder. She had tried so hard to give him a normal life, away from the darkness of her past. Now that past was all that might save him. 5 hours later, Liz saw it, a ship much larger than her own, shaped like a massive arrowhead. Its surface was black and smooth, with no windows or visible doors. It was beautiful in a cold, deadly way. "Target in sight," she said into the radio, but there was no answer from Earth now. She was truly alone. The witch's hut had one advantage. It was small, and its design included technology that made it hard to detect. Liz guided it carefully toward the alien vessel, staying in what Webb had called its blind spot. As she got closer, she saw that the alien ship's surface wasn't completely smooth. There were small indentations, airlocks maybe, places where smaller craft could dock. Liz had been trained to enter hostile territory undetected. Usually that meant buildings guarded by men with guns. This was different only in scale. The principles were the same. Find a weak point, move silently, strike without warning. She guided her ship toward one of the smaller indentations. As she got closer, she saw it was indeed an airlock of some kind, probably used for maintenance or emergencies. Liz put on the spacesuit that had been prepared for her. It was thinner than regular spacesuits, allowing her to move more freely. Another piece of technology borrowed from the visitors, Frank had told her. The witch's hut had its own airlock. Liz checked her weapons one last time, then opened the outer door. Space was right there. Nothing between her and forever, but a thin layer of advanced materials. She pushed off, floating the short distance to the alien ship. Up close, it was even larger than she had thought. She felt tiny next to it, a speck of dust against a mountain. The alien airlock had a control panel. Liz studied it, remembering what Webb had taught her about their technology. She pressed a sequence of symbols. Nothing happened. She tried again, changing the order slightly. This time, a light flashed green. The outer door slid open. Liz moved inside quickly, before anything could detect her. The airlock was small and dark. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet. Liz waited as the outer door closed and the chamber pressurized. Then the inner door opened and she was inside the alien ship. The corridor was tall and wide, clearly built for beings larger than humans. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. Liz removed her helmet. The air was breathable, just as Webb had predicted, and listened. She could hear a distant humming, the sound of a large ship's engines, but no voices, no footsteps. She moved, forward carefully, staying close to the wall. The first rule of hostile territory: know the layout. Find the control room, find the prisoners, find the exit routes. As she rounded a corner, she saw them for the first time. 2 of the aliens, Zixorians Webb had called them, stood at the end of the corridor. They were even more intimidating up close. 8 feet tall, with forearms and hard shell-like skin that looked like polished black stone. Their yellow eyes glowed in the dim light. They hadn't seen her yet. Liz pressed herself against the wall, watching. The Zixorians were talking to each other in a language of clicks and low sounds. Then they moved away, turning down another corridor. Liz followed at a safe distance. After several turns, the corridor opened into a large room filled with screens and control panels. 3 more Zixorians worked at the stations. A command center. She couldn't take on all 3 at once. Not yet. Not until she knew where Jack was. Liz backed away and continued her exploration. The ship was massive, with many levels connected by strange elevators that moved in all directions. Liz nearly got lost twice, but she was methodical, creating a mental map as she went. After an hour of careful movement, she found what she was looking for: a large chamber filled with rows of glass tubes. Inside each tube was a being, some human, some clearly not. All were still, suspended in a clear liquid that bubbled occasionally. Liz moved between the rows, looking at each face. Some were adults, some children. Different races, different ages. Then she saw him. Jack floated in one of the tubes, eyes closed, looking peaceful, as if he were just sleeping. Liz placed her hand on the glass. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm going to get you out." But how? There were at least 30 tubes, each connected to a complex system of pipes and wires, and somewhere on the ship were the Zixorians who had taken her son. As Liz studied the tubes, trying to understand how they worked, she heard a sound behind her. She turned quickly, knife already in hand. A Zixorian stood in the doorway, its yellow, eyes wide with surprise. It hadn't expected to find a human here, moving freely on its ship. Before it could react, Liz threw her knife. The blade struck the Zixorian in the joint where its arm met its body, one of the few places not covered by the hard shell. The alien made a high, keening sound and reached for a device on its belt. Liz was across the room in an instant. She kicked the device from the Zixorian's hand and drove her elbow into its throat. The alien was strong, but Liz had fought stronger. She knew how to use an opponent's size against them. The fight was brief and silent. When it was over, the Zixorian lay on the floor, unmoving. Liz retrieved her knife and cleaned it on her suit. "One," she whispered. "One down. But how many more to go? And how long before they discovered she was here?" Liz looked back at Jack, still floating peacefully in his tube. "I'm coming," she promised. "Just hold on." She dragged the Zixorian's body into a dark corner, then began to examine the control panel for the tubes. The symbols were strange, but some of them matched what Webb had shown her. Life support, stasis, release. Liz's finger hovered over the release button, but something made her pause. If she freed Jack now, where would they go? How would they get off the ship? She needed a plan. She needed to understand the enemy. So Baba Yaga did what she had always done best. She became a ghost on the ship, watching, learning, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. For 3 days, Liz lived in the shadows of the alien ship. She moved through air ducts, hid in storage rooms, and learned the patterns of the Zixorians. She counted 28 of them on board. They worked in shifts, 6 at a time, controlling the ship while the others rested or worked on other tasks. Liz found ways to steal food and water meant for the human prisoners. The food was bland but gave her strength. She slept in short bursts, never more than an hour at a time, always with her back to a wall and her knife in her hand. Most importantly, she listened. The Zixorians spoke their clicking language among themselves, but sometimes they used translators to speak to captives from different worlds. By hiding near these conversations, Liz began to understand words and phrases. She learned that the ship was called the Harvester. It traveled between worlds, collecting specimens for the Zixorian Empire. The captives would be sold as workers or kept for study. She learned that Jack had been chosen because he was young and healthy. The Zixorians had scanned him from orbit and marked him as a prime specimen. They had no idea he was connected to someone like Liz. On the 4th day, Liz was hiding in a ventilation shaft above the ship's command center when she heard something important. The ship would reach the jump point in 12 hours. After that, they would travel to the Zixorian home system, where the captives would be processed and distributed. Liz knew her time was running out. Once the ship made the jump, Earth would be too far away to return to. She needed to act now. She had a plan. It wasn't perfect, but plans rarely were in her experience. The important thing was to adapt when things went wrong, as they always did. First, she needed to disable their communications. If they couldn't call for help, they would be isolated. Liz made her way to the communications room she had discovered on her second day. 2 Zixorians were inside, monitoring screens that showed star maps and strange symbols. Liz waited until one left the room. The other was focused on a screen, its back to the door. She moved silently, closing the distance in 3 quick steps. Her knife found the same weak spot as before, the joint where arm met body. The Zixorian made a sound like breaking glass, then went silent. Liz studied the control panel. She didn't need to understand everything. She just needed to break it. She used the knife to pry open a section of the panel, exposing the wires and circuits inside. Then she pulled out a small device she had taken from the Zixorian she had killed on her first day. She had seen them use it to repair equipment. Now she would use it to do the opposite. A few minutes later, the communications array was a smoking ruin. Step 1 complete. Next, she needed a diversion. Something to draw the Zixorians away from the stasis chamber where Jack and the others were held. Liz made her way to the engine room. It was the heart of the ship, and damaging it would definitely get their attention. But she needed to be careful. Damage it too much, and the ship might explode or be unable to return to Earth. The engine room was huge, with a glowing core that pulsed with blue energy. 4 Zixorians worked at different stations, too many to take on directly. Liz used the small translator device she had taken from the dead Zixorian to understand the labels on the control panels. She identified the cooling system, critical, but not fatal if damaged temporarily. She took out a small explosive device she had brought. From Earth, it wasn't very powerful, but it would be enough. She placed it on a pipe that carried cooling fluid, setting the timer for 10 minutes. Then she retreated silently the way she had come. Liz moved quickly back to the stasis chamber. It was empty of Zixorians, all the captives still floating peacefully in their tubes. Jack's face was calm, unaware of what was happening around him. Liz went to the main control panel and began pressing buttons in the sequence she had seen a Zixorian use the day before. Lights started flashing on the tubes. The fluid inside began to drain. A loud explosion shook the ship. The diversion had worked. Alarms began to sound throughout the vessel. Liz could hear running footsteps and the clicking language of the Zixorians, sounding urgent and afraid. The fluid in Jack's tube was almost gone. His eyes began to flutter. Liz pressed more buttons and the front of the tube slid open. Jack fell forward into her arms, wet and confused. "Mom," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I'm here," Liz said, holding him tight for just a moment. "But we need to move, now." Jack looked around, his eyes wide as he saw the other tubes, the strange room, the flashing lights. "Where are we? What's happening?" "I'll explain later," Liz said, helping him stand. "Can you walk?" Jack nodded, though his legs were shaky. Liz handed him a small device. "If anyone but me comes near you, press this button, then run." They couldn't. Free all the captives at once. The process was too slow, and the Zixorians would return any minute. But Liz had a plan for that, too. She guided Jack to a hiding place behind some equipment, then returned to the main panel. She set the system to release all captives after a delay of 30 minutes. By then, she and Jack would be gone, one way or another. Just as she finished, the door to the chamber slid open. 3 Zixorians rushed in, their yellow eyes scanning the room. When they saw Liz standing by the control panel, they froze for a second in surprise. Liz didn't give them time to recover. She threw her knife at the first one, hitting it in the eye. As it fell, she was already moving, drawing her pistol and firing at the second. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The 3rd Zixorian was fast. It lunged at Liz, grabbing her with 2 of its 4 arms. She felt her ribs crack under the pressure. But pain was an old friend to Baba Yaga. She twisted in its grip, bringing her pistol up under its jaw and fired twice. The Zixorian's grip loosened. Liz pushed away as it fell, yellow blood spattering the floor. "Jack, come on," she called. Her son emerged from his hiding place, his face pale with shock. "Mom, you killed them," he said, staring at the bodies. "They took you." Liz replied simply, "No one takes my son." She led Jack out of the chamber, moving quickly through the corridors. The ship was in chaos, with alarms blaring and Zixorians running to deal with the engine room crisis. Their destination was the hangar bay where smaller ships were kept. Liz had found it on her second day of exploration. It was their best chance of escape. "Where are we going?" Jack asked as they ran. "Home," Liz said. "We're going home." But between them and home stood more Zixorians, and the ship was still heading for the jump point, moving further from Earth with every passing moment. The hunt was not over yet. The hangar bay was 3 levels down. Liz and Jack moved as quickly as they could through the chaos of the ship. Alarms were still blaring. The damage to the engine's cooling system was causing problems throughout the vessel. "Stay close," Liz told Jack as they pressed against a wall. A group of Zixorians ran past the corridor, not noticing them. "Mom, what are those things?" Jack asked, his voice shaking. "They're called Zixorians," Liz said. "They travel between worlds, taking people." Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "How did you find me?" Liz checked around a corner before answering. "I'll always find you, Jack, no matter where you are." They reached a large elevator that would take them down to the hangar level. As the doors closed, Liz finally had a moment to really look at her son. He was pale but seemed unharmed. His eyes were full of questions. "I know this is all very strange," Liz said, "but I need you to be brave for a little longer." Jack nodded. "I can be brave." Then he added, "Those things you did back there, I didn't know you could fight like that." "There's a lot you don't know about me," Liz said. "Before you were born, I was different." The elevator stopped. The doors opened to reveal a Zixorian standing right in front of them. It was as surprised as they were. Before it could react, Liz pushed Jack behind her and attacked. The fight was brief but violent. When it was over, Liz was breathing hard, but the Zixorian lay still on the floor. "4," she whispered. 4 dead by her hand. Jack stared at her with wide eyes. "Who are you really?" he asked. Liz wiped yellow blood from her knife. "I'm your mother," she said. "That's all that matters." The hangar bay was just ahead. Through a window in the door, Liz could see several small ships. They looked like the one that had landed near their cabin on Earth. 2 Zixorians were working on one of them. "We need one of those ships," Liz told Jack. "But first we need to open the outer doors." The hangar had a control room to one side. From there, they could operate the doors and launch systems, but getting there meant crossing open space where they would be seen. "I need a distraction," Liz said, thinking aloud. Jack pointed to a panel on the wall. "What about that?" "It looks like the fire system." Liz looked where he was pointing. The panel had symbols similar to ones she had seen in other parts of the ship, in areas with safety equipment. "Good eye," she said with a small smile. "You're definitely my son." Liz opened the panel and studied the controls inside. Then she pressed a sequence of buttons. Immediately, a shrill alarm began to sound, different from the one already blaring through the ship. A moment later, a thick mist began spraying from the ceiling of the hangar. The 2 Zixorians looked up in confusion. As the mist grew thicker, they moved toward the control room to check what was happening. "Now," Liz whispered. She and Jack slipped through the door and ran low across the hangar floor, hidden by the mist. They reached the nearest ship without being seen. The ship's door was open. Inside were 2 rows of seats, clearly designed for transporting captives. The controls at the front were similar to those in the witch's hut, but simpler. "Get in and strap yourself down," Liz told Jack. "This might be rough." While Jack secured himself, Liz examined the ship's systems. She needed to figure out how to start it, how to fly it, and how to open the hangar doors if the Zixorians didn't do it for them. She found what looked like the ignition sequence and activated it. The ship hummed to life, controls lighting up with soft blue light. The mist in the hangar was beginning to clear. Soon they would be visible. Liz needed to move fast. She found the weapon system and targeted the hangar door controls. It was a risk. Damage them too much and the doors might not open at all. But she had no choice. Liz fired a short burst. The control panel by the hangar doors exploded in a shower of sparks. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the massive doors began to slide open. "Hold on," Liz called to Jack. She pushed what she hoped was the throttle forward. The ship rose smoothly from the hangar floor. The two Zixorians had emerged from the control room and were shouting, pointing at the rising ship. One of them drew a weapon and fired. Energy bolts hit the side of the ship but did no serious damage. Liz aimed the ship toward the opening doors and increased power. They shot forward, out of the hangar, and into space. "We did it," Jack yelled. "Not yet," Liz said. They were still too close to the harvester. And Earth was far away. Suddenly the main ship began to turn. Its weapons would be much more powerful than the small arms the Zixorians had used in the hangar. Liz pushed the small ship to its limit, putting distance between them and the harvester. The stars blurred around them. "How do we get home?" Jackie asked. Before Liz could answer, a massive shape appeared in front of them. Another ship, much larger than their small vessel but smaller than the harvester. It was sleek and deadly looking. "No," Liz whispered. "Not another enemy." Not when they were so close. The radio on their ship crackled to life. A voice spoke in the clicking language of the Zixorians. Then it switched to English. "Unidentified vessel. Identify yourself. You have breached Zixorian property." Liz looked at Jack, then back at the controls. There was nowhere to run. The new ship blocked their path forward, and the harvester was behind them. "This is Elizabeth Anderson of Earth," she replied into the radio. "I have my son. They took him from me. I'm taking him home." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back. "You boarded a Zixorian harvester alone and survived?" "Yes," Liz said simply. Another pause. "We have been monitoring communications. We received a distress call from the harvester before it went silent. They reported what was the word? A demon on board. A human female who could not be stopped." Liz said nothing. She watched as the new ship moved, positioning itself between them and the harvester. "We are the resistance," the voice continued. "Many worlds have lost people to the harvesters. We fight the Zixorian Empire where we can." A beam of light shot from the new ship, striking the harvester. The massive slaver ship shuddered, then began to drift. "You have done what none of us could do," the voice said. "You have damaged a harvester from within, and you have freed captives." "All of them?" Liz asked. "I set the system to release them all." "Yes. Our sensors show life pods launching. We will collect them, and we will take you home, Baba Yaga." Liz stiffened at the sound of her old name. "How do you know that name?" "We heard the Zixorians. In their fear, they called you this. They said a witch had come aboard their ship, a demon who could not be killed." Jack looked at his mother with new eyes. "Baba Yaga?" he whispered. Liz nodded slowly. "It was my code name. A long time ago, a door opened in the side of the resistance ship, big enough for their small vessel to enter. "Come," the voice said. "You and your son will be honored guests, and when you are ready, we will take you home." Liz guided their ship toward the open door. As they entered the safety of the resistance vessel, she finally allowed herself to relax. She reached over and took Jack's hand. "Is it over?" Jack asked. Liz nodded. "It's over. We're going home." But even as she said it, she knew something had changed. The Zixorian Empire now knew about Earth, and they knew about her. More importantly, Jack knew the truth about his mother, that she wasn't just a quiet woman who lived in a cabin in Montana. She was Baba Yaga, the one that monsters feared. As they docked inside the resistance ship, Liz made a decision. No more hiding. No more pretending to be something she wasn't. The universe was bigger and more dangerous than she had thought, and if the dangers of the universe could reach Earth, could reach her son, then they needed Baba Yaga, and Baba Yaga would be ready.